Here you go, bro.
What up? Welcome to another edition of 22 MW. My name's Tony. I'm coming to you from EBK Studios today. I'm joined by Kurtis. Kurtis, did you happen to listen to the Sing Street soundtrack this week?
No, I keep meaning to buy it, but I haven't bought it yet.
I checked it out. I really dug it. I think that that's the way to go, except for that Brown Shoes song. Maybe it sounds like he's talking very aggressively to a woman because he says, "You wear a dress and tell me not to wear brown shoes." But he's talking to a guy. Guys can wear dresses too, right?
I don't care what you wear. I'm wearing a shirt with a Triforce on it, so
nice.
And I'm 36, almost 37 years old. So
what builds up the Triforce? What are the three forces?
Power, courage, and wisdom.
Okay, I didn't know that. All right, there you go. All right, so let's get into our top 22. What do you got this week, Kurtis?
Top 22.
How many wrestling top 22s have you had?
I think probably 6.
6? Okay, so I get to do another Roger Klein, the Peacemakers one, because I saw him again on Thursday night. It was so awesome. I know, like, they usually only come here once every year, or sometimes it's even once every 2 years. They've been here 3 times this year. Actually, one was just a Roger solo show. Great time. We met Roger after the show. We told him that our new soon-to-be born, well, not soon-to-be, still got a few months, but baby number 2 was conceived on the night of a previous show, and he was really big that we go with Roger for the name. So I don't.
Oh, that's terrible.
I don't know.
Oh, that's
I like it.
I like Klein more than Roger.
That's what people said, but I don't like Klein. I like Roger better. But we'll see. Emily gets to pick. She hasn't decided yet. The show was awesome. Had a great time, just like always. But, man, every time I go to one of those shows, I look around, and everyone is so old. And we're all getting older. And, like, I mean, there was an old Jewish man there. I'm not joking. Like, there was a really old Jewish man there who looked like he was, like, 65. And it's just, it makes me feel really bad because I know I'm old, but I'm not supposed to be as old as some of these people at these shows, but we're really old.
How old is Roger Klein?
He's probably like 47-ish.
Okay.
Maybe a year younger, maybe a year older.
So he could be rocking for a long time still. I mean, but when you're not, I mean, what do they even do to try and appeal to a younger audience? Nothing, right?
They don't try to appeal to anyone. They make what music they want to make, and if you like it and dig it, you do.
Well, no, there's a difference between that and like putting it in a place where a 17-year-old might hear it.
I mean, it's, you know, they're very much, we have our fans bring in new fans. Hopefully, that's pretty much it. I mean, in Arizona where they're from, they have, you know, maybe a little bit bigger channel of distribution. They go on local radio shows and they get played on the radio more. There used to be a guy here that used to work at 99X in Atlanta that used to play them all the time. He would show up to the shows a lot of time. He wasn't there at this one. He was at the one a few months ago.
So do you recognize a lot of the same faces then? Or no?
Well, I mean, I have a group of friends that we've been going to these shows for 15 plus years now. So I see them, and, you know, there's a few maybe. I don't know. But, there's some, but I don't really pay close attention to people's faces. I just know everybody there is really old. We're getting really old. It's kind of disheartening. But I still have a great time every time I go. So
I mean, I would say you were only able to tell that the man was Jewish by looking at his face, right? Is that an ignorant presumption? But okay.
I mean, I didn't ask him, yeah, but he definitely, okay, he looked like an old Jewish man, and if he wasn't one, I would be very surprised.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. So my top 22 this week is from a show called NFL Timeline. It was Peyton Manning's summer school, and took place, they filmed it like 2013. You know, Peyton, essentially it's just what he did in the summer. He went to Duke, and him and Eli, you know, trained there with their college quarterback coaches or whatever. I don't know. I love Peyton Manning. I really think he's a good dude, whether he flashed a nurse when he was 19 or not. Like, I think he's a really good dude. I think he's really smart. I love the fact that, like, you know, it shows like him and Eli hanging out, and Eli's eating chips, and he's just like, his older brother is so much smarter than him, but he's still able to get under his skin like no other. And that's something that doesn't go away. And I appreciate it. It's really good special.
Well, Eli actually helped his team win 2 Super Bowls, unlike Peyton, which helped him get to one, helped him not lose one, and then didn't really do anything to win the second one. In both of those Super Bowls Eli won, he made plays that they would not have won the Super Bowl without.
Well, the receiver was pretty key in both of them. And the catches were both better than the throws, right?
The one to David Tyree, I mean, he should have been sacked on that play, and he got out of the sack and got the throw off. So that's more than Peyton's ever done in Super Bowl. I am not a Peyton fan merely because he went to Tennessee. I hate Tennessee. My hate for Peyton is always kind of like half serious, half joking because he does seem like such a nice guy. I used to always, like when people would come to me and talk about how much they love Peyton Manning or stuff like that, I'd always say, but he's a sexual deviant, right? Like,
yeah, you would bring that up.
Joking about that because that used to be just kind of like a myth. That was like he just mooned her, but then that thing came out, I guess, kind of before this season, I guess, that it was maybe more serious than that, and then turned out maybe not, and then I don't know. I've heard both, but it seems like it kind of went away, and that there were some tapes of that woman saying some stuff that she was kind of full of crap. I don't know. I don't know if there was ever like a resolution to it or what, but I used to joke about with people, being like, to try and knock him down a peg, I would say he was like this, sexual harasser of women just because he mooned that chick. But
he has a line on there that he said, I like to be coached, and I'm frustrated when I'm not. And I don't know. I think that's kind of a good life lesson.
Who coaches him? He's his own coach.
No, he's not. And he clearly said he doesn't like that. And, I mean, you saw – what's the guy that was his offensive coordinator, and he works at Duke now. He was Eli's coach at Ole Miss, guy.
David Cutcliffe.
Yeah. When he's hanging out with him, he's paying attention to everything he's saying. It's yes, sir, no, sir, super respectful. It's clear he has, he loves to be coached.
Okay. Well, he also loves to be his own offensive coordinator. So maybe he likes his quarterback coach. But
I think his last year in Denver would probably argue against that. But okay,
I still think Brady's the much better quarterback. I get in this debate with my friend Jeff all the time.
No, Brady's the best quarterback of all time.
Okay, so my friend Jeff swears it's Peyton. I always say it's Brady, but you got to respect what Peyton's done. Definitely one of the smartest guys to ever play quarterback. I mean, when your head is that big, you should have a big brain in it to be smart. But they just went out there and played 16 games every season. Yeah, Peyton Manning might be the greatest of all time, but there's something called the postseason, and it gives them a reason to play the game. Thus, Tom Brady is better, and as usual, your buddy Greg is not very smart. His grandma's a good hookup for underage drinkers. But she passed away like a year or so ago. So
nuts! Another one bites the dust. That's sad. Okay, that went pretty long. Let's get into our trailer for the week. We'll do a little watch it, rent it, forget it here. It's for a trailer. I guess they call this a teaser. I don't really get it. The difference. Well, maybe I do. I'll explain in a minute. But it's for a Power Rangers movie. I think it's called Saban's Power Rangers. No real notables for anybody of our age. I think one of the young girls was on like a freeform show or something. But Curtis, what did you think about this trailer? And watch it, rent it, or forget it.
So I'm the Power Rangers thing was after I was too cool to get involved with something that I saw a few times where maybe you or one of our other brothers was watching it and thought it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. A few months ago, my son started watching the original one on Netflix, and I went, oh my god, that show is so terrible and so corny. So this trailer is a rent it strictly. I would say forget it because it looks bad, but it's a rent it strictly on the curiosity factor. I mean, this is like if the only instance of Batman was the Adam West show, and then the next one was Batman Begins. Batman Begins. Yeah, that there had never been of Tim Burton. There had never been Batman the Animated Series. There had never been comic books. You could probably argue that even with all the comics and the animated series and the cartoons, that it would have been weird for people who remember the Batman 66, which is a lot of people's number one recollection of Batman until Tim Burton's, like that the Christopher Nolan trilogy might not have worked without that stepping stone of Tim Burton's movies to kind of ease people into a still ridiculous but more serious version of the character.
Well, I mean, if you listen to like Kevin Smith talk about that movie and when it came out in 1989, like it does sound like he's talking about the Dark Knight trilogy. So, I mean, I'd say you're spot on.
So for this to be, I mean, this, first of all, it's a blatant Chronicle ripoff. The teaser is anyway. Maybe the movie won't be, but the teaser is like, I hope you didn't see that movie Chronicle, because this is Chronicle with Power Rangers. It's just so serious. It looks like Zack Snyder directed it. It's a bunch of angry teenagers, which finally, I guess we got those teenagers with attitudes. That was always my favorite part of that show, is when he said, "Bring me the teenagers with attitudes," and they had the 5 most safest, lamer than the kids from Saved by the Bell, goody two shoes kids that existed, and those were
like Bulk and Skull had way more attitude than the Rangers.
So I guess they finally got some teenagers with attitudes. Again, this is a Reddit for me. It looks terrible, but I am curious to see how they're going to take this super serious approach to something that was so campy and so over the top ridiculous as a kid show.
So I was a big fan of this. I loved this show. And I want to say that this movie courts my childhood. It's very respectful. It's very appropriate. I like what they've done here. I'm super excited about it. I don't want to see any more trailers for this movie. I don't want to see the Zords. I don't even want to see Bryan Cranston as Zordon. This, to me, was the perfect trailer, the best trailer I've seen in a long time, because it just doesn't go too deep into it. It shows me that it's something I know, but they're going to update it and make it fun. You know, again, that show is, as much as I loved it as a kid, it is unbearable. It's completely unbearable to watch. I thought like a couple years ago I would try and watch at least to like when they do the Green Ranger thing, because I was always a big Green Ranger fan. And I couldn't make it through one 22-minute episode. And, you know, that's pretty sad. So I'm excited about it. It looks like they made some changes, but I don't care because, again, it sucks looking back on it. But it could be really fun, and it could be a super good time, so it's definitely a watch it for me.
It looks ridiculous, but it seems like you like it just because it didn't. You're saying the movie's going to be a watch it because the trailer didn't spoil anything for you, and you're tired of trailers spoiling everything.
That could be a factor, but I don't think that's all.
Okay.
I mean, again, it's enjoyable, and I don't want to see anymore, but there you go. All right, our first movie this week is a documentary from 2016. I got it on Amazon. Where'd you watch it, Curtis?
Voodoo.
You didn't watch it on flexflix.com.
No,
anyways,
I didn't.
It's directed by Marty Langford, and the only real star in it is a picture of Mark Ruffalo. It's called Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's The Fantastic Four. And this is a documentary about this 1994 movie, and as I said, it's available on YouTube, and you can go watch it. And Curtis, what did you think about this movie?
So it's kind of hard to. There's 2 other documentaries we've watched or reviewed on the show that are applicable here. One is obviously the
Superman Lives.
Yeah, Superman Lives documentary. And then the other one is Raiders, I think, a little bit.
Sure.
Because
So
in that Raiders documentary, yeah, I'm sure it came up, I'm sure people said it, but no one had to tell you. There was never a chance where someone on screen had to look at the camera and tell you how passionate these kids were about making that movie, how much thought and love and heart they put into it. Like, yeah, that probably happened, but you could just see it from the scenes of the way they made the movie and them talking about how they made the movie. They didn't have to tell you that. I felt like this movie really, really had to tell you over and over and over again that they really tried to make this movie, that everyone involved was trying really hard. And I'm not saying that they were being dishonest. I'm saying they really, really wanted to convince you of it because they wouldn't stop saying it.
Okay, so I want to talk about that. So in the history of this show, I think I've talked a good bit about the difference between art and industry and the difference between passion and being a whore. And I think this movie walks a real weird line in that area because it's like, yeah, we're super passionate about it, but we're kind of passionate about it because we think it might get us famous. Like it's really weird in that regard. It seems inconsistent amongst specific individuals.
I mean, even the end of this movie was a big plead for Fox
Sure.
or whoever to actually release the movie. They didn't say so, but I felt it was so that they would get some money out of it. Which, hey, they showed up for work and did their thing, and they did create a product that there are people out there who want to buy, so I'm not saying I disagree with them, but to your point, yeah, that's balanced up against them really, really, really going on and on and on about we really, really tried to make a movie. And they didn't really get into, I mean, there is some. They talked about how they kind of reused some sets for Carnosaur and some of the special effects. I mean, that stuff's there, but it didn't have any heart behind it usually. I mean, there was a couple of guys, like the guy who played Reed Richards, he seemed like he was really into it. But everyone else, just even the guy who played Doctor Doom, like he just seemed like he was really trying to convince us that he wasn't just part of this laughably bad movie and that he really showed up and he was a serious actor. And even though I've never seen him in anything else, and it just seemed like everyone was doing that. So,
well, I think he's probably the guy that I most would have liked to have seen them interview him then. I think he's looking back on it in retrospect, and now that, because obviously his kid's into it, and as we've talked about many times, it's like when people have kids, they lose their sense of humor, they lose a sense of fun, and they're kind of way into their kids in a creepy way, and so I think that would have been interesting.
Well, I think that brings up a good point. The biggest problem with this movie is that they just didn't have enough good stuff. And you understand why. There wasn't money to shoot a bunch of behind-the-scenes footage and take interviews with the cast. The money wasn't there to do that, so that's why they don't have it. They didn't have that. They didn't have an interview with Stan Lee. They didn't have an interview with some of the producers. They did talk to Roger Corman barely at all, and there was just too much missing here to give you a really full picture of what happened, other than probably anyone who listens to this show and likes the kind of movies we like already knew is just kind of a nerd.
Yeah, they said it really well in the documentary itself that their movie not getting released probably gave it more life than had it actually been released. Like, it actually gave people something to talk about, and in a mocking way, to the point where when I discovered that it was on YouTube, I was like, oh, I've been mocking this movie for years. I've got to watch it, and it's really bad. Oh, really bad. I mean, I do think that, I don't know that it would make any money like he suggests, but I do think, why not put it out on a 2-disc DVD set and have, a George Lucas cut and an original cut. I think, why not?
I know that I'd go as far as that one guy said to add new special effects and spend money on it. But I think people would buy it. I think they grossly overestimate how many people would buy it. I don't think it would be a lot. I think a lot of people who already want this movie already have a bootleg copy of it. Maybe they would like a cleaner version, because I think a lot of the bootlegs look like crap, or all of them do. But I don't think this is a license to print money. I don't think it would cost them a lot to put this out on digital. Maybe not even do a physical release and make a few bucks off selling it. But
yeah,
I think they're kind of embarrassed about it. Probably Marvel has a say. I think Fox would probably be more interested in that than Marvel. I don't think Marvel would be very interested in doing that at all. They've kind of swept Fantastic Four under the rug until Fox gives it back to them. So
yeah, they definitely want it back. So I think this actually does include a third documentary we reviewed here that you didn't mention. And that's It Too Shall Pass. And the fact that this isn't a great documentary, it doesn't blow me away, but I'm glad I got to watch it. And again, I kind of wish they made a documentary on this about like this about everything. Again, it doesn't have to be amazing. It was just kind of interesting, 90 minutes, and not for everyone, but I like this kind of stuff.
yeah, I thought about that too, but I kind of decided that it wasn't that. Whereas at the end of the day, I was glad I watched that, and yeah, that wasn't some spectacular documentary. I felt like I got something out of it and learned something. I didn't really feel that here. I'm not saying that if there isn't new information here or a couple of cool parts, but overall, I didn't feel like this was really a great use of my time. It's not terrible by any means. If you're really into this stuff like that, you might want to check it out. But for me, I didn't think it was that great. I didn't think it was a great use of my time. It's 2 out of 5.
Yeah, 3 Mr. Narcissisms out of 5 for me, and remember, that's flexflix.com.
I did want to say one more thing, though. That was that there were a lot of, we talked, I think, recently that I don't like to really comment on people's appearances because that's not something I'm really qualified to do.
When did that change, though?
I don't know.
When did that become a thing? Because remember, even I was thinking about that this week, that you called me to tell me that I had stolen that Maggie Gyllenhaal joke about her being ugly.
I told that in my home or with my fellow brothers. None of us except maybe Andy, who are good-looking fellows, not on a podcast with dozens of listeners who. I don't know. I just thought that joke was too good to pass up. It was so good you had to steal it. So I don't think that's the best case. But in this movie, lots of unattractive people in it. The only reason I bring it up is because everyone was so unattractive, especially the women actually kind of aged well, and that's usually the opposite, right? Usually men age better than women.
White women, yeah.
And the two women, they still had their looks at being probably in their 50s, but the men in this aged horribly. The guy who played Ben Grimm, not the Thing, but Ben Grimm was like an Adonis, and then they showed him now, and he it didn't even look like the same guy.
That's true. Johnny Storm hadn't aged well. He went from this he didn't look great before, but he's supposed to be young and hip. Johnny Storm is.
And he looks like some guy who sells you meth now. And Reed Richards, I guess, didn't change that much. But then a lot of the people who made the movie, they weren't the most attractive individuals either. So this is not. There's not a lot of pleasant stuff to look at during it either.
So while you're being honest, that kid from Sing Street was hideous, right?
He's kind of goofy looking.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. In theaters now from 2016, directed by Gavin O'Connor, starring Ben Affleck, Anna Kendrick, J.K. Simmons, John Barenthal, Jeffrey Tambor, John Lithgow. It's called The Accountant. So I want to try and express this. I probably should have written some of this down, so maybe it could be a cohesive thought. But so, there's things in life where Robert Downey Jr. always plays Robert Downey Jr., and Ben Affleck always plays Ben Affleck. And that's kind of the difference between this guy's super passionate about feeding the homeless, and this guy's super passionate about eating his toenails. Some passions are respectable, and some passions are a little less respectable. Robert Downey Jr. always comes off as smart and cunning and well-spoken.
Quick-witted,
well-spoken. And Ben Affleck always kind of comes off like a douche. And I love Ben Affleck. I do. But he's kind of a douche. And you can just tell that that's how he probably is in real life. And I think that that's what kills this movie. Ben Affleck kills this movie. Like Ben Affleck from the late 90s. I kind of thought he had that out of his system. But
kills it good or bad?
Oh, this movie could have been a passable movie had it had a different leading actor in it. This movie is not good. There's a lot going on. It's really boring. I mean, there are stints of it that are just incredibly boring, and then it'll get good for a little bit. And then, hey, we're just going to have Amanda Waller and J.K. Simmons sit in this room and freaking talk. They're just going to tell stories for 30 minutes. And it's like, what the crap is going on here? So I'm going to let Curtis talk a little bit, and then I'll get back to some other stuff.
I'm going to start out and say I actually really enjoyed this. I get most of what you're saying, except for the bored part. I was never bored in this movie, and I think that's what I enjoyed about it the most. It intrigued me. Now, the payoff was not great, and that's I think that's that's mainly due to this movie tried to do way too much. It had had way too many mysteries, way too many characters.
Way too many.
I think if you took out the J.K. Simmons and the FBI lady, that it would have been a better movie. They weren't really necessary, and then because just like everyone else in this movie, they had their own kind of secrets and their own kind of stories, and they never, except for one flashback scene, they're never even in the scene with Ben Affleck's character. So I didn't think they really needed to be there. That their relationship was really weird, from where he's threatening her at the beginning to their kind of buddies at the end, except there was no really reconciliation of why they did that.
Well, that's not true. In that scene I was just talking about, where they sit around and tell 30 minutes worth of stories.
Okay, well that scene is the biggest problem with the movie, because they set up all these things, and I was digging it for the fact that they were kind of doing it at their own pace. They weren't sitting there just like giving you little bits here and there, and they were just kind of doing it at their own pace. The problem with that is they ran out of time, and they're like, crap, we have all these loose ends. Let's just have J.K. Simmons. Everyone likes him. Let's just have him talk for 30 minutes, and then we'll have an ending scene with Ben Affleck and John Barenthal that doesn't... doesn't really make a lot of sense, but was passable enough. I know you said it wasn't passable. I did think it was passable. And
no, that end scene really could have worked. I think like that's part of the reason I say like it suffered from having Ben Affleck in it, because I think the end scene could have worked.
I actually liked Ben Affleck in this. I thought this is where his douchiness paid off. Like this character was supposed to be, and this is I'm going to come back to this other point because I think it's a weird talking point of the movie, but I actually think with his autism and stuff like that, where he was kind of supposed to be douchey. It wasn't supposed to be douchey on purpose. It was supposed to be inadvertently douchey. I think it worked out, and I actually liked him in this role. I thought he did a great job. I don't know that I would have picked anyone else to play that character. That said, a lot of people interpreted this character different ways. I was kind of intrigued by the right at 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Every once in a while, I kind of like go dig into the reviews to see what people are saying.
Sure.
They were all over the place. People thought this movie was funny, and this is the same thing for the theater. There were people laughing at some of his quirks, and then there were other people who kind of like felt sympathy for him. I was usually more in the sympathy thing. And sometimes I thought the movie wanted you to laugh, but then there are other times I didn't think it wanted you to laugh, and people were laughing. So I
completely agree, and I think that's because it's Ben Affleck. Just I don't know. I don't even know how to put it into words, but it's just that thing he does where it has to be like, bam, bam. He has to bam you in the face. He has to hit you in the face with a baseball bat. And it just felt like too much. Yeah, some of it was funny, some of it worked, but I would say over 50% of it didn't.
I don't think it was all supposed to be funny. I think there were supposed to be moments where he.
I agree, but the audience was dying laughing at the ones you weren't supposed to laugh at. To me,
I get it, and I get the reviews, and I don't totally disagree with you, except I didn't think this. The main thing I'll disagree with you is that this was boring. I did not think it was boring at all. After watching it again, I would probably think it was boring because I don't think the payoff was worth all the intrigue.
Well, that's why this movie doesn't work, is because this is a movie you have to watch a couple times to probably even get everything that's going on, because it's so convoluted. But you can't do it because the characters aren't good enough. I was super bored until he meets Anna Kendrick for the first time. Like, that was the first time I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. The rest of it was just mostly boring.
Their relationship was weird, mainly because they didn't really share enough screen time to connect. It didn't really make them get romantical. It kind of insinuated that they might, but they never did, which is a good thing. It would have really come off weird if they had. So I don't want to spoil some things here, but because I think this is worth checking out. It's probably more of a rental than go to the movie, but I enjoyed it. I thought Ben Affleck was good. I thought that worked. I would actually say don't see it in the theater because you don't want to feel like you have to laugh because everyone else is laughing. I would say watch it by yourself and take it how you want to take it. To me, that was one of the most interesting parts of the movie, was that people were laughing at stuff that I actually thought was kind of sad. That I didn't feel that character was saying that line as a joke. I felt he was saying it either intentionally or unintentionally to convey, the pains and struggles he goes through. And I actually thought his character kind of worked. Some of the other characters that we didn't spend enough time with them to really get the payoff, especially the John Bernthal character. There's a lot of moral ambiguity there that they don't really tie up with him. They do try to tie it up with Ben Affleck's character and how he relates to J.K. Simmons, or at least through the British woman. But his moral ambiguity is not really addressed at all. It's just kind of swept under the rug at the end, and that didn't really work. I really wish they had left J.K. Simmons out of it and focused more on the other characters. I think that would have been a better movie. But I actually still enjoyed this, mainly, I think, because it was just different from Jason Bourne, James Bond, Mission Impossible, action beat. There were times in this movie where another movie would have had to cram in an action scene, and instead they'd put a scene with Ben Affleck solving financial accounting problems. And I just thought that was a nice change of pace. I never got bored by it. When they did have action, I didn't think it went on forever. There wasn't scenes where they were punching. I will say toward the end it maybe was a little bit more ridiculous, but leading up to that, there weren't scenes where people were punching each other 1,500 times or jumping out of 5-story windows. Yes, there probably was some stuff, again, especially at the end, that was over the top, but for the most part, it wasn't. Like, guys got shot and they died, guys got hit and they fell down, they bled. I dug that part of it in this thing where every action movie we get is the exact same lately. This was a little bit different. As someone who likes action movies but hates all the ones they come out with today, I don't know. I think that's the main reason I liked it so much.
I liked the action of it. I liked the way he was with the gun. I liked that, like, he would always put like an extra shot in everybody. Like, I thought that was kind of different. The weirdest part to me though was there's this scene where he's watching Anna Kendrick sleep, and she's wearing a Canadian tuxedo. She's full denim. I don't know, really weird. I wish they maybe would have delved into that a little bit more. Let me ask you this, Kurtis. So, and this I think this is right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so when we saw the first trailer, like, we didn't really know that there was going to be like guns and stuff like that, right?
I mean, we didn't do the trailer on here.
Okay, but I feel like I thought it was going to be like a
financial
thriller kind of thing. Like,
no, I remember guns, but maybe I saw the first and second trailer, or only saw the second one. I definitely remember Anna Kendrick finding the guns in the trailer.
I remember that from the second trailer. I don't remember that from the first one, but I could be wrong. But I think they almost have, like, it would have been even a stranger movie had you not known that that's what you were getting yourself into, right? And you watch, 25 minutes of not that, and then all of a sudden everyone's shooting everyone.
Yeah, I think it probably would have been weird.
So maybe it's I don't know. The trailer game is very difficult.
I have one more thing I want to bring up on it, but I will say,
for me, was
I'm
Canadian
actually going to say 4 out of
tuxedos.
5. I really like this movie. I understand it. I understand it has Okay, that's probably true. I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't think I will. But I had a really good time watching this.
watch
Again,
this
I think
movie
it was
again.
just because I'm so tired of Mission Impossible, Jason Bourne. Everything's exactly the same, and this was different. I was glad to watch an action movie that was different. I had a good time watching it. The payoff wasn't great, but it was passable enough for how much I enjoyed it up to the payoff. So I'm saying 4 out of 5. I do hope that they won't do one thing I see a lot of people already talking about and make this a franchise. I don't think this... I think it'll be such a terrible idea. I think it would be stupid. It shouldn't be a franchise.
I think they will. I thought that when I watched it.
I mean, I know it's 2016, almost 2017. It will be a franchise, but I don't think it should be.
Okay. I don't disagree, but I think they will. All right. So here's the time where we all find out what we've been wanting to know. We're going to go into Kurtis's classroom, and we're going to see
do this?
if he
I'm not
actually
joking. Can we do this next
did his
week?
homework, pun intended, or if he's going to crap all over the segment. Go ahead.
I meant to ask that before the show if we could do it next week. I meant to, and I forgot because we were supposed to record.
Why didn't you ask that before?
All right. I meant to ask before the show,
All right, leave
and
all
I
that.
forgot.
If
But
you-
we were
if
supposed
you
to
leave all
record
that
Friday.
in,
That's
don't
not my
edit
fault. You
any of
pushed it
that
back.
out.
I mean,
Yeah,
technically
you
that gave
do
me
it next week.
more time, but
No, I'm completely okay with it, and I was actually going to
Yeah.
ask you too if we could move it to next week because I thought I was editing and I wanted to get to football, but that's fine. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll find out next week, and he's going to leave all this in. We'll find out next week if Kurtis crapped on it or not. Next week we're going to be taking a look at 2 Zach Galifianakis movies that are currently in theaters: Keeping Up with the Joneses and Mastermind, which some are calling the #1 board game of all time. No, they're calling it the #1 comedy of the year. So check in with us next week for that. Until then, gotta go, son.
Pay attention.